and vector calculus. Okay, in matrices, which
Eigenvalues,
subtopics?
eigenvectors, and all that concepts.
Eigenvalue, eigenvector. What about system of linear equation? Yes.
Yes, it was also mentioned, described there.
Okay, and what about vector space?
Yes, it was taught in vector calculus.
No, vector space is not part of vector calculus. It is part of linear algebra. Vector space is very different than vector calculus.
In that, I am not very sure, sir. I think
Okay.
you should ask to other.
No problem, but this first unit of your MLE subject, it contains few basic topics like matrix algebra, in which we are going to discuss again system of linear equation, right? How we can solve it by Gauss elimination and Gauss-Jordan method, then inverse of matrix, vectors in Rn, and then we'll go with vector space, linear independence, span, basis, and subspace, right? So these many topics we are going to cover in the first unit. But earlier you might have studied this topic just for from mathematical point of view. Now you need to understand why these topics are very important from machine learning point of view. So let's take a quick introduction. Let me share. Yes, is my screen visible? Please confirm this in chat box so I can know.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, visible.
Thank you. Thank you for the response. Yes, now see, your subject is machine learning essential, right? So what do we mean by machine learning? When I'm saying machine learning, what do you people understand by this?
Sir, making machine to learn by their own, by previous
Yes,
experiences.
making machines to learn by their own. Now, how the machines will learn?
From
Okay,
extracting data from previous experience.
because the learning of machine is very similar like a child learning from the environment. So what is the environment for machines? वो किससे सीखेगा? Obviously data, right? So the data is very important when you are dealing with machine learning, because there will be some algorithms. You will train those algorithms to give some predictions, and the training will be done using some set of data. और मोस्टली हमारे पास जो डेटा रहेगा, दैट डेटा विल बी इन फॉर्म ऑफ वेक्टर्स और मैट्रिसेस. ज्यादातर डेटा को हम लोग जो रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, दे आर इन टर्म्स ऑफ मैट्रिसेस और वेक्टर्स. दैट्स व्हाई linear algebra is very essential when you are dealing with machine learning, right? Now, how linear algebra can be helpful when you are training your algorithms in machine learning? Let's try to understand this thing by example. Let's say if you have this kind of data of velocity when rocket is going upwards. At a velocity का data हमारे पास किस तरह से होगा? We have data of time in seconds and we have velocity in meter per second. So let's say when the rocket launches, in first 5 seconds, it gets velocity of 106.8. Then after 8 seconds, the velocity is 177.2. And after 12, the velocity is 279.2. Right? So we have this kind of data where time is changing and according to the velocity is changing. Now, after this, using machine learning or using any algorithm, now we want to predict the future velocity for future time. that means the velocity after 15 seconds or velocity after 20 seconds, that kind of prediction you want to make. So what do you think, किस तरह से कर सकते हैं ये चीज? And let's assume that the velocity of rocket is approximated by this function. Velocity v is equal to, it is at square plus bt plus c, where a, b and c, they are your coefficients and t represents the time. Let's say ये function जो है ये हमको approximate value दे रहा है velocity का in terms of time t. तो अगर मैं इतना डेटा आप लोगों को देता हूं, then what do you think, if you want to make future prediction, is it possible and how we can do it? Well, meanwhile Rishabh is saying finding the acceleration. Okay, any other option?
सर ग्राफ बनाएंगे,
ग्राफ
velocity
बनाएंगे वेलोसिटी का, और फिर उस ग्राफ को तुम आगे कंटिन्यू करके लेके जाओगे 15 सेकंड्स 20 सेकंड्स के लिए.
यस सर.
सर
Okay.
वो कोरिलेशन रिग्रेशन से भी शायद हो
हाँ
सकता
सर.
है.
Yes,
कोरिलेटेड है दोनों.
correct. So what we can do here, let's say we have three data, right? 3 data for time and 3 data for velocity. Now if I take my first set of data, right, what is my velocity for the first set of data? It is 106.8 is equal to, now my time is 5 seconds, so a into t square, it is 5 square, so it will be 25a plus 5b plus c. Now what is my second data? Velocity is 177.2, then 8 square, what is 8 square? It is 64a plus 8b plus c. And my third velocity is 279.2. Then what is 12 square? It is 144a plus 12b plus c. Now with the help of this function and the data available with us, we got 3 equation, right? Now this is called 3 simultaneous equation, or we also call it system of linear equation. Why the equations are linear? Because यहाँ पर जो आपके ABC variables हैं, they all have degree 1. That's why the equations are called linear equation. And since we have more than one equations, we call it system of linear equation. Now, is there any method you have studied to solve these equations in your first or second semester?
Elimination and substitution method.
Sorry, which one?
Elimination and substitution method.
Yes. Gauss elimination, and there was one more method, Gauss-Jordan method, right? So with the help of Gauss elimination and Gauss-Jordan method, you can solve this system of linear equation. You can find the value of a, b and c. Now once you get your value of a, b and c, now your coefficients are known, right? Now you know the value of a, now you know the value of b, and now you know the value of c. So the only input value will be your t, the time. So if you input t equal to 20, it will give you the approximate value after t equal to 20 seconds. If you input t equal to 30, it will give you the approximate velocity after t equal to 30 seconds, right? So this is one kind of learning, this is one kind of observation which we have made from the available data. अब यही चीज आपको मशीन को सिखानी है कि भाई जो डेटा अवेलेबल है उसको यूज करके कैसे प्रेडिक्शन करने हैं. So once your algorithm will be trained for this equation, once it will find a, b and c value, then it will start making predictions. और जितना ज्यादा उसको हम लोग डेटा प्रोवाइड करेंगे उतना ही आपका अप्रोक्सीमेशन जो है वो ज्यादा बेटर होता जाएगा, राइट? तो ये चीज अगर आपको मशीन को सिखानी है या इसके लिए अगर आपको मशीन को ट्रेन करना है, देन यू शुड नो अबाउट हाउ टू सॉल्व सिस्टम ऑफ linear equations. There are various methods available for system of linear equation. Some of the methods are exact method, जैसे कि Gauss elimination हो गया, Gauss-Jordan हो गया, and some methods are iterative method, जैसे Gauss-Jacobi है और Gauss-Seidel है, right? वो method शायद आप लोगों ने पढ़ा नहीं होगा because they are part of numerical methods. Maybe you will study these methods in semester 5. जब आप न्यूमेरिकल मेथड का सब्जेक्ट पढ़ोगे तब शायद ये मेथड्स आप लोग स्टडी करोगे वहां पर. बट फिलहाल हमारे पास दो एग्जैक्ट मेथड्स हैं. फर्स्ट वन इज गॉस एलिमिनेशन एंड गॉस जॉर्डन, right? And these two methods, Gauss elimination and Gauss Jordan, they are part of linear algebra, and that's why we are again referring these two methods here in your machine learning, because they are very essential, right? So this is first part, why system of linear equations are very important. And the second thing which we are going to discuss in this unit is vector space. Maybe you might have studied vector space in your first or second semester. किसी ने पढ़ा है, किसी ने इसके बारे में याद है किसी को? Anyone? What is a vector space? जो भी याद हो थोड़ा बहुत, then we'll complete it. Anyone?
Sir, set of group of vectors.
Okay, what's your name? I cannot see your name because my screen,
Sir,
I'm not
yes.
seeing my screen. Yes, okay, yes. So you are saying it is set of,
Operation and vectors.
yes, set of operations.
ऐसा मतलब exactly मुझे याद नहीं है लेकिन.
Okay, no, but the answer is almost correct. The set of operations and vectors. Whenever we have vector space, we are writing it like this. First, it is V, which you call set of vectors, and then we have two operations, addition and multiplication. Right? But this is not your usual addition and multiplication. This addition and multiplication, vector space allow us to define our own addition and multiplication depending on what kind of data we have. Right? So here your set V is the collection of vectors, but vector space, even vector space is not rigid. It's not always like the collection of vectors only. It can be collection of matrices, it can be collection of any other objects also. But the logic is, if your collection satisfies certain conditions, then they are entitled as vector space, right? There are certain conditions of vector space. What conditions are there? There are 5 conditions for addition operation and 5 conditions for multiplication. Now let me give you those conditions quickly. Well, ये condition हम लोग देखेंगे when we'll discuss vector space. Right? First condition is like this. If you add any two vectors x bar and y bar, then their addition again should be part of your collection. Right? जैसे आपने दो वेक्टर्स लिए randomly x bar y bar आपके collection में से, तो उनको ऐड करने से जो नया वेक्टर बनेगा, that should be also part of your collection. Then second, you take x bar plus y bar or y bar plus x bar, your result should not change. This is called commutative property. Then third one, this is called associative law. Associative means, right, first you add y bar and z bar first and then you add x bar, or you add x bar and y bar first and after that you take z bar, then your result should not change. This is called property of associativity. Then fourth property is, there should be a zero vector or zero element in your collection such that if you add that zero vector to any other vector, then your result should be x bar again. X bar plus 0 bar should be x bar. Then fifth one, for every vector in your collection, there should be opposite vector present in your set V. So for every x bar belongs to V, we can get minus x bar belongs to V such that if you add x bar and minus x bar, the resultant vector should be 0 bar. That means zero vector. So x bar and minus x bar will be opposite of each other. So हर एक वेक्टर के लिए उसका ऑपोजिट वेक्टर भी वो कलेक्शन में प्रेजेंट होना चाहिए, राइट? तो ये 5 कंडीशंस जो हैं, दे आर फॉर एडिशन, एंड सिमिलरली ऐसे ही 5 कंडीशंस हैं मल्टीप्लिकेशन के लिए, राइट? तो आप लोग सोचोगे कि ये सारे कंडीशंस और मशीन लर्निंग, आई मीन कनेक्शन क्या है दोनों में? मशीन लर्निंग में ये सारे कंडीशंस हम लोग कहां पर और कैसे अप्लाई करेंगे? तो मशीन लर्निंग में मोस्टली हम लोग क्या करते हैं, हमारे पास जो डेटा अवेलेबल है वो डेटा को यूज करके वी आर ट्राइंग टू ट्रेन आवर एल्गोरिथम, राइट? वी आर ट्राइंग टू मेक मशीन लर्न समथिंग फ्रॉम दैट डेटा। अब क्वेश्चन ये है कि जो डेटा हम लोग रियल लाइफ सिचुएशन से या एम्पेरिकल डेटा जो हम लोग लेते हैं कहीं से, राइट, क्या वो डेटा प्रॉपर है उस एल्गोरिथम को ट्रेन करने के लिए, राइट? अब यहां पर प्रॉपर का मतलब क्या है? लेट मी गिव यू एग्जांपल। एक एग्जांपल लेके समझते हैं इसको। लेट से मेरे पास कुछ इस तरह का डेटा है रिगार्डिंग 3 कंट्रीज, इंडिया, ऑस्ट्रेलिया एंड तीसरा कोई भी कंट्री, लेट्स से जाम्बिया। We have some students from Zambia also in the campus, so let's take Zambia. So this is the country. Then let me take year. Let's say year हम लोग लेते हैं 2015. Then एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट कितना प्रोड्यूस करते हैं, राइट? वो अमाउंट लिखते हैं टन्स में। लेट्स से यहाँ पर 20 टन्स, देन 15 एंड लेट्स से 5। और जो एवरेज बारिश होती है, राइट, रेन या प्रेसिपिटेशन, उसको हम लोग अगर मिलीमीटर में लिखें, लेट्स से हियर वी हैव 100 मिलीमीटर, 75 मिलीमीटर एंड 25 मिलीमीटर्स। तो इस तरह का हमारे पास डेटा है 3 अलग अलग देश के लिए। तो ये इसको अगर आप देखो, ये आपके 3 वेक्टर्स बनेंगे, राइट? दिस इज योर फर्स्ट वेक्टर, दिस इज योर सेकंड वेक्टर एंड दिस इज योर थर्ड वेक्टर। So in your first vector, what is your first component? First component is your country name, India. Second component is the year 2015, then agriculture production in tons, and then the precipitation or amount of rain, right? तो ये 4 डायमेंशन का एक वेक्टर बना पहला कंट्री इंडिया के लिए। सिमिलरली 1 वेक्टर विल बी फॉर ऑस्ट्रेलिया एंड 1 वेक्टर विल बी फॉर जाम्बिया। अब यहां पर अगर हम लोग स्टैंडर्ड वेक्टर एडिशन की बात करें, ये मेरा अगर पहला वेक्टर है एक्स बार एंड माय सेकंड वेक्टर वाई बार इज फॉर ऑस्ट्रेलिया 2015, then 15 and 75। अब अगर हम रेगुलर जैसे हम वेक्टर एडिशन करते हैं एक्स बार प्लस वाई बार, इफ आई टेक वेक्टर एडिशन इन सेम वे एक्स बार प्लस वाई बार, then what would be my resultant vector? कोई बताएगा मुझे? ये 2 वेक्टर को अगर हम यूजुअली जैसे 2 वेक्टर्स को ऐड करते हैं वैसे ही अगर ऐड करें तो एडिशन क्या मिलेगा? कोई ट्राई करेगा? सिंपल सा वेक्टर एडिशन है। व्हाट शुड बी माय रिजल्ट?
इंडिया प्लस ऑस्ट्रेलिया।
करेक्ट। माय फर्स्ट कंपोनेंट विल बी इंडिया प्लस ऑस्ट्रेलिया। व्हाट विल बी माय सेकंड कंपोनेंट?
4030।
Yes, 4030. What will be my third component?
35
and
175
175. Now by adding these 2 vectors, I got my x bar plus y bar. Now do you think this x bar plus y bar vector makes any sense? Because the first component represents country, right? Now do you think India plus Australia is any country?
नो सर।
ऐसा कोई कंट्री है? ऐसा कोई कंट्री नहीं है, राइट? अब हमारा गोल ये था मशीन लर्निंग के जरिए कि हम लोग ये सोच रहे थे कि भाई किसी कंट्री में किसी पर्टिकुलर ईयर में जो एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोडक्ट होता है, राइट, और उसका बारिश के साथ क्या लेना देना है, कितना प्रेसिपिटेशन, उसको हम लर्न करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। बट जब इस डेटा के साथ हम डील कर रहे हैं तो यहाँ पर स्टैंडर्ड एडिशन करने से क्या हो रहा है कि ऐसा एक कंट्री हमको देखने को मिल रहा है जो कि एग्जिस्टेंस में है ही नहीं, इंडिया प्लस ऑस्ट्रेलिया। एंड लुक एट द ईयर 4030, राइट? हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं 2015 के लिए, वो हमको चेक करना है और यहां पर हमको मिल रहा है 4030, राइट? डज इट मेक एनी सेंस? नो, इट डजंट मेक एनी सेंस। तो यहां पर तो ये एक्स बार प्लस वाई बार जो है, राइट, ये इसका कोई सेंस ही नहीं बन रहा। तो जब मशीन लर्निंग में हमारा एल्गोरिथम इस तरह के डेटा के साथ डील करेगा और इस तरह के वेक्टर्स को अगर वो ऐड करेगा, ऑब्वियसली वो जो रिजल्ट देगा, वो प्रेडिक्शन देगा, दैट वुड बी इनएक्यूरेट, क्योंकि हमारा डेटा जो है इट्स नॉट प्रॉपर, इट्स इनएप्रोप्रिएट, राइट? So that's where vector space comes in picture, right? जब भी हम लोग कोई डेटा देते हैं for training any algorithm, right, then in that case that data should follow all the rules of vector space, all the 10 conditions of vector space. Then and only then your algorithms will work properly, your algorithm will give predictions properly. So whenever you are training any algorithm using any data set, first you need to observe your data set. You should see what kind of data you have, right? You should see what kind of operations your algorithm is going to use, and for those operations you need to check the conditions of vector space. If vector space conditions are fulfilled, then you should give your data for training to your algorithms, right? So this is the thing regarding vector space. Even what is the flexibility we have with vector space? Vector space gives us freedom to define our own operations, like addition and multiplication. So with this standard addition we got issue, right? Now let me define addition in this way. For x bar plus y bar, I'm defining my addition like this. It is, let's say, if I just want to concentrate on number of what production we got from agriculture and precipitation, then I'll keep my x component and y component freezed. I won't change it, and then I'll take only addition in third and fourth component, like this. So even vector space allow us to change our addition and multiplication operation. That freedom we have with us when we are dealing with vector space. So depending on your data set, you can choose your own operations, that what kind of addition you want to define, what kind of multiplication you want to define, and then you need to check those 10 conditions for your operations and for your data which is available with you. And if those 10 conditions are satisfied, then that data is good enough that we can provide for the algorithms to train. Right? That's why vector space is very essential when you are dealing with machine learning. Right? So in this unit, what we are going to study, again, the same topics which you have already studied in second semester, but now from the point of view of machine learning, that what conditions are there, how you can deal with those conditions, how you can define your addition and multiplication operations, like this, right? And all those concepts you will directly apply in other units when Nikun sir will teach you machine learning and training of algorithms, right? So these concepts will be helpful there. So that's why linear algebra is very essential in machine learning. And let's start with the first part from matrix. I think you already know about matrices and the other types, but still let's recall it. Let me share PPT here. Yes, let's start with the quick revision of matrices, and then maybe we are ready to go with system of linear equations. Yes, let's try to identify what is matrix. We'll define some special type of matrices, and then we'll go with system of linear equation. Okay. So the matrix will look like this. For example, let's say if I want to represent a data of 4 students and 3 subjects, what they have scored in their mid-semester marks, that example is already there on your screen. Right? There are 3 subjects: mathematics, physics, and chemistry. And there are 4 students, S1, S2, S3 and S4. अब ये चारों स्टूडेंट्स के मार्क्स जो हैं they are in form of matrix. Now with this representation, if I want to find any value, it would be very easy to identify. For example, if I want to find marks of S4 students in chemistry subject, then I need to go with last column and last row, right? So my data will be 27. Right? So matrix, they are very helpful in representing data in very easy and convenient way. And also we can perform various operations on matrices. And we are also, when we are solving system of linear equations, in that case also we are representing all the data in matrix form when we are performing Gauss elimination or Gauss Jordan. So matrices are very important part of linear algebra. So let's define various types of matrices. Maybe you also you'll be knowing this types, but still again let's revise it. So this is standard definition of matrix. It's a rectangular array of elements. The elements can be symbolic, can be expressions or numbers. Mostly we denote matrices by capital letters. Right? And the general form of matrix is this: A11. A11 is the first element, which is part of first row and first column. Similarly, A12 is the element which belongs to first row and second column. So whenever you are writing any element like this, Aij, then this I will represent your row in which your element belongs, and this J represents column. Right? So this way we represent a matrix, and we can also write the general form like this: matrix A is equal to Aij m by n. Right? This is symbolic representation of matrix Aij m cross n. That means it is the size of matrix m by n. This matrix will have m rows and n columns. Okay, this is again the same thing which I told you, Aij, where I and j represents the row number and column number. Yeah, this is the same example which I gave you for 3 subject and 4 students. So here the size of matrix is what? There are 3 rows and 4 columns. So size of this matrix is 3 by 4. Now after this, there are 2 more things about matrix. One is square matrix and rectangular matrix. Now can anyone tell me what is square matrix and rectangular? I think it's very easy. You can know it by name directly. Yes,
Square matrix has equal number of rows and columns.
Correct.
And
rectangular matrix, they don't have equal number of rows and columns. As you can see on your screen, this matrix is rectangular matrix because number of row we have 3 and number of column we have 4. So this is a rectangular arrangement. But if your number of rows and column are same, like 3 by 3, 4 by 4, 5 by 5, then such matrix is called square matrix. Okay. So that is the idea of square matrix and rectangular matrix. Then after that, 2 more things we are going to discuss: row vector and column vector. Now what is a row vector? See, row vector means if you represent a matrix which has only single row and any number of columns. Right? If it is a single row and any number of column, then we call it row vector. For example, this one, let's say 2, 3, 5 up to let's say 11. So this is a row vector where we have single row and any number of columns. Number of columns can be in any amount: 3 columns, 4 columns, 10 columns. So this kind of arrangement is also called row vector. So similarly, what is column vector? Similar kind of logic will be there. In column vector, there will be only single column, but any number of rows. As you can see here in this example, C1 is your first row, then there will be C2, second row, third row, up to this is your mth row. Right? So this is a column vector where we have only single column and m rows. So this is the logic of row vector and column vector. This is the example of row vector, column vector. See, I'm going very fast with these definitions because you already know about these things, right? That's why I'm going very fast. But still, if you have any difficulty or if you don't understand any definition, you can ask me anytime. Right? Then the definition of square matrix we already discussed. If number of rows and number of columns are equal, then we call it square matrix. So this is the example of square matrix. As you can see here, we have 3 by 3 matrix, 3 rows and 3 columns. And whenever you have any square matrix, there are also diagonals which we can define. See, diagonals have very important role in solving system of linear equations. This is the first diagonal, 25, 10 and 7, and this is the second diagonal. Now this 25, 10 and 7, this is called principal diagonal. And this diagonal 3, 10 and 6, this is called secondary diagonal. Okay. So whenever I'm saying principal diagonal, that means we are taking it from left to right and from up to down. And when we are dealing with secondary diagonal, it is always right to left and from top to bottom. So this is principal diagonal and secondary diagonal. And mostly when we are solving system of linear equation or we are finding inverse or in any other method, we'll always deal with principal diagonal. Right? Secondary diagonal, it don't have much involvement in those methods. So principal diagonal is important for us when we are dealing with matrices. Then we have this definition, upper triangular, and after that it will be lower triangular. So example is already there. So by looking at this example, can anyone tell me what do we mean by upper triangular? It is already there in your screen.
Sir, elements below diagonal will be 0.
Elements below the diagonal will be 0. Okay, so as you can see in the example, it is a 3 by 3 matrix. This is my principal diagonal. And the elements below the principal diagonal, they are 0. That's why you are saying that it is upper triangular matrix. That means if I'm using word upper, then the 0 should be below the principal diagonal, right? But when you want to define upper triangular matrix, the definition will be like this. If you have a square matrix and if your elements Aij is equal to 0 whenever we have I greater than j. Now, why this condition I greater than j? Because if you see the location of these elements, this first element 10 is having location A11, right? It is in first row and first column. Here this location is A12 and here the location is A13. Similarly, this location is A22, A23 and this location is A33. Now, do you find any pattern here above the principal diagonal? See here 1 1, that means I is equal to j. Here 1 2 1 2 means I is less than j. For 1 3 again I is less than j. For 2 3 again I is less than j. And for A22 and A33 I is equal to j. That means for all the elements above the principal diagonal, we always have I less than j. And for all the elements below the principal diagonal, we always have I greater than j. Right? Why I greater than j? Because for this element, the location is A21. This location is A32. And this location is A31. Right? So you observe all three locations, A21, A31, and A32. Everywhere we have I greater than j. That means if all the elements are 0, whenever we have I greater than j, then we call it upper triangular matrix. See, logic wise it is okay when you are saying all the elements below the principal diagonal are 0, that's fine. But when you are defining, we will define it like this, that if Aij is equal to 0, whenever we have I greater than j, then we call it upper triangular matrix. Now, if this logic is clear to you, can anyone tell me what we can define for lower triangular?
I less than
I
j.
less than j.
Correct. If aij is equal to 0 for I less than j, then we call that matrix lower triangular. So the definition of lower triangular will be like this. If we have aij equal to 0 for j greater than I, or you write I less than j, both are same, then we call it lower triangular matrix. And in lower triangular matrix, these values are 0. Right? The values above the principal diagonal, then we call it lower triangular. So this is the definition of upper triangular and lower triangular. Then we have definition of diagonal matrix. Can anyone tell me what is diagonal matrix?
Only I equal to j elements are non-zero.
Yes, only
I equal to j elements are non-zero.
correct. I equal to j elements are non-zero, and all the elements aij equal to 0 whenever we have I not equal to j. So whenever we have I not equal to j, all the elements will be 0. For example, these elements are called diagonal. So as you can see here, we have I not equal to j because it is this is 1 2, this is 1 3, this element is 2 3, this element is 3 2, this element is 3 1, this element is 2 1. Right? So for all these elements, you can see I and j, they are not same. We have I not equal to j, and all these entries are 0. But in principal diagonal, it is not like that there has to be non-zero entries. Right? Here 0 is also allowed and non-zero entry is also allowed. Definition wise, the condition is aij should be 0 if I is not equal to j. But when I equal to j, non-zero entry is also allowed and zero entry is also allowed. Right? This is the definition of diagonal matrix. If except principal diagonal, all the other elements are 0, then we call it diagonal matrix. So this is diagonal matrix. Then we have identity matrix. I think you might be familiar with this. What is identity matrix? Example is already there. Yes, anyone?
Elements on principal diagonal are 1.
Identity matrix is again a diagonal matrix because you can see that except principal diagonal, all these elements are 0. Right? So definitely it's a diagonal matrix. But what is extra condition here? In principal diagonal, all the elements has to be 1. That means here aij should be equal to 0 when I not equal to j, and aij is equal to 1 whenever we have I equal to j. So if these two conditions are satisfied, then we say that a matrix is identity matrix. So this is the definition of identity matrix. And identity matrix can be of any order. Right? It can be of order 3 by 3, 4 by 4, 5 by 5. Right? And usually we denote identity matrix by I. Right? I is the standard notation for identity matrix. If it is having order 3 by 3, we write it I 3 by 3, or maybe I 4 by 4. This is your I 4 by 4. Identity matrix of order 4 by 4. Then we have zero matrix. So for zero matrix, the definition is very clear. If all the elements are 0 for every I and j, then we call it zero matrix. So this is zero matrix. Right. And now this is very important definition or important condition whenever we are solving system of linear equations. System of linear equations. right? And the condition is called diagonally dominance, right? Or the matrix which follows diagonally dominant condition, it is called diagonally dominant matrix. Now, what is the logic here? What is the condition here? The condition is like this. Let me give you example. Let's say I have a 3 by 3 matrix A11, A12, A13, A21, A22, A23, A31, A32, and A33. Right? Now, what will be my principal diagonal here? In principal diagonal, I have A11, A22, and A33. Now, diagonally dominant means whatever element you have in your diagonal, right? What is the element in diagonal for the first row? The element is A11. Now, the absolute value of A11, when I'm saying absolute, that means you don't need to consider plus and minus sign. You just need to consider value. So the absolute value of A11 must be greater than or equal to modulus of A12 plus modulus of A13. Right? So this diagonal value should be greater than or equal to the addition of remaining entries. Right? Here I have 3 by 3 matrix, so I have only 2 remaining entries. If I have 4 by 4, then the remaining entries will be 3. If I have 5 by 5, then the remaining entries will be 4. Right? So this is the condition of diagonal dominance. The diagonal entry should be greater than or equal to the total of all the remaining entries. So what should be this condition for second row? For second row, your condition will be this. The diagonal entry is A22. It is greater than or equal to modulus of A21 plus modulus of A23. And similarly for the third row, the absolute value of A33 should be greater than or equal to A31 plus A32. Right? So if these three conditions are satisfied for a 3 by 3 system, then we call it diagonally dominant matrix. Right? This is the logic of diagonal dominance. Your diagonal entry should be greater than or equal to the total of all the remaining entries. And notation wise, in general, you can write it like this. Right? Diagonal entry is represented by AII. So I'm writing modulus of AII, and it is greater than or equal to, now it is the addition of all the remaining entries. Now how I can write addition? Addition can be given by summation, and I don't need to consider diagonal entries. So I'm writing I not equal to j, and I'll take j equal to 1 to n. So it will give me I will be fixed. So A I1 plus A I2 plus A I3 up to A IN. But here I equal to j entry will be skipped because I equal to j entry is here on the left hand side, AII. Right? So this is the condition of diagonal dominance. So I guess it's already 11 o'clock. Let's wind up this session here. So till this point, whatever definitions we have discussed, is there any doubt? I think they were basic definitions which you already have studied in first and second, but still, is there any doubt in any of the definition?
No, sir.
Okay. So let's wind up this session here. Maybe next session we'll discuss more definitions, and then we'll start system of linear equation, where we'll discuss Gauss elimination and Gauss-Jordan again one more time. And if possible, try to revise the concepts of Gauss elimination and Gauss-Jordan, so it will be